I saw the video that you sent out there last week explaining maybe where things are. Is there a bit of a gap between the actual of where you are at the minute, which is in a must-win game, and the feeling that there is belief and positivity in the group?
In terms of there not really being belief and positivity, or in terms of how you join them up?
Yeah, how do you join them up? But looking at Saturday's performance, and the fact that you've now backed yourself completely into this, probably have to win 2 games. One probably won't be enough. How does that balance out with what?
No, it's a really interesting question. I think, I think it's harder to generate or maintain belief in games where you go out and you feel you've given a really good version of yourselves, or close to the best version of yourselves, and you're played off the park by the opposition. I think if you feel that you've played all the cards you had to play and you still get a really bad scoreline against you, I think that's where everyone looks around the room and you start to doubt either your own ability or the way you're going about things or the plan or everything else in between. I think they're the hardest situations to dig your way out of, and I think lots of us coaches and players have been involved in situations like that over the years. I think when you go out and give a really poor performance, and the frustration, there's embarrassment around that, because that's human nature. Your ego is damaged. You feel you've let down yourself, you feel you've let down your fans, you feel you've let down everyone that's been working so hard leading into that game and to put us in a position where we can qualify for finals rugby and Champions Cup rugby. As I said, there's embarrassment, there's disappointment, there's frustration. But the biggest piece of it is the frustration that you've not delivered what you know is potentially there for yourselves as a team or as an individual. And when we went through that review, it was really important with the players and coaches, we looked at ourselves really closely as well, to recognise how poor we were at different times and how that cost us and the outcome of that. But it was also important to look for the moments where we actually had greater control over our own destiny than we demonstrated. So it might be as simple as the first kick-off of the game, where we get a really good chase, a great dominant tackle from Oisin Dowling, good ruck pressure to slow down the ball. Casey kicks the ball, contests the ball back to us. And we are potentially catching that ball 25 metres out from the Munster line, ready to build our first attack of the game, get into the 22 and apply some pressure. And we don't field the high ball, which isn't simply a matter of the catcher not fielding it. It's to do with the protection he's getting from the players in front of him. It's to do with the pressure we're getting on the 9 when he's kicking. It's a team action. It's not just the guy dropping one cold. And as a result of that, Munster get possession. So from being potentially on the attacking foot 25 metres out, we're now tackling again. Casey builds another exit, kicks it again. Again, we don't field the high ball. Again, we don't give our catcher in the backfield the due protection. So what potentially then was an attacking opportunity 50 metres out from the Munster line, our first chance to impose ourselves on the game, we're now tackling. Munster being a possession team, 50 metres out, they're going to keep the ball. Before you know it, we've made 25, 30 tackles and Munster have made barely any. That's where the frustration comes, because simple actions, albeit needing lots of people to do their job really well, are the access points to a game. It might be delivering a line out to the scrum half so that we can launch an attack, but we throw it at his toes and the ball gets knocked on and Munster attacking again on the halfway line. We had 9 of those moments in the first 30 minutes of the game. And by that stage, we'd made over 120 tackles. Now, you might only make 120 tackles in 80 minutes of rugby, let alone 30. So there's such big frustration because we could see how much we were fatiguing ourselves with the amount of defence we had to do, but how many opportunities that kept coming our way that we weren't capitalising on. So it's a long-winded answer, and I apologise for that, but I suppose it's a way of saying it's actually about dealing with the frustration. The belief doesn't waver, because we know we've done it better on other occasions. If we didn't have that reference point, belief becomes a real problem. And going into this must-win game, we don't have time to fix everything. We have to reference what we've done well before and say, we better deliver it this week, otherwise time runs out.
Okay, that's looking at that part of it. But then when you had chances, Jared Butler made the break, Jack Carty was involved in that somewhere along the line as well. Some of the decision making there was a situation when the interception came that the realignment, you could see it sitting where I was, that all it was going to take was half an interception because there was no alignment at all. Is that just the pressure of being, effectively 21-7 down and you're chasing, when maybe it should have been closer? The yellow card cost you 14 points.
It did. No, it was a crucial period, and that yellow card came on the back of a run of penalties where we were under pressure after pressure after pressure and weren't able to diffuse that. So, look, I think that's absolutely fair. I think those chances there even later in the game that we didn't take, and I think when you're behind on the scoreboard, but also had so many disappointing moments earlier in the game of more opportunities you haven't taken or you've messed up. You get to those crucial moments like a line break where the final pass needs to be thrown, or someone needs to just make a decision about what position they need to be in to make it work to actually convert it into points. And guys are either too frantic to take it based on what's happened before. There's a big load of fatigue in there as well, which is not an excuse because we've created our own fatigue by not hanging onto the ball. And quite often there's that mental pressure of going, crikey, we finally got an opportunity, we must take it. And you either see inaccuracy in those moments, or you see sometimes players not taking any option. Do I pass left? Do I pass right? Oh, crikey, I've just held on to it because I've run out of time to pull the trigger. So I think those moments are an outcome of the hole you've dug yourself in previously. And I said that's not an excuse, that's controllable by us.
Stats would indicate that you're one of the fastest teams between your own 22 and the opposition 22. What's going wrong in the opposition 22? Because then you seem to slow down completely. Is that a nervousness thing, or is it trying to be too precise, or just lack of decision making?
I think there's probably two different scenarios where you get into the opposition 22. I think when we've accessed and we're building phase play, or we've had a set piece move and we've got ourselves into the 22, I think there are those scenarios where we've got improvement to do, but we're on the same page in terms of where our forwards are working to, where our backs are working to, and what we want out of that. And actually, when you look at the points per entry in those scenarios, we're tracking all right relative to other teams in the competition. I think when you get a line break, such as the one you're talking about with Jared, and you get in there and it's more chaotic, and you're looking for guys to either make decisions in a split second or to take ownership of the situation in a split second. That's where we've not put enough of those chances away this season. So there's obviously a coaching bit of it in terms of how do we train and how do we message the options and the decision making better in there, and there's a practice element of it, of actually just giving the guys reps of trying to do that at training. But it is something that we're disappointed by. And it probably mirrors the disappointment that you see at the other end of the field in terms of when teams get access to our final third, and for all the hard work of defending phase after phase after phase, say between the two 10-metre lines around about halfway, it feels like it's too easy at times when they then are able to get into the bottom third, get into your 22 and convert that into points. And again, we talked about frustration earlier, but if you were just a poor defensive side that let teams run in tries from 50, 60 metres, there's not much discussion to be had. But when you can build phases of pressure in defence for 5, 6, 7, 10 phases even, but you still feel that teams get a soft score at the end of it, everything's not quite joined up, and as I said, that needs a lot of work.